feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer!
I don't care what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the
Call
Cowboys.
this college rule!
Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. Dom and Chris here, and as always, make sure you like, follow, share, and subscribe, and listen to all of our content here on YouTube, Spotify, as well as Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts are found. And we're in the middle of a block, Chris. We're in the middle of a block.
We're almost on to our starter. This is our last bench player who some would argue is better. I would agree with that.
100% agree.
But we're in a block of backups for Brett Favre, the old dong slinger. And we're on to the best quarterback, Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, we are. The best of the backups. And
Yes.
we've gone through some pretty good ones.
I was going to say, we've gone through NFL starters. We've gone through, you know what I mean? We've had some great ones. This guy was so good in the 2010s. It's insane.
And he's still playing.
I know.
He's still playing as of now.
39, I think.
40 now.
40 now. Yeah, you're right.
Pushing 41.
Yeah.
So Aaron Rodgers, born December 2nd, 1983 in Chico, California.
Mm-hmm.
Darlow's mom, dad, Edward, he was an offensive lineman at Chico State, party school where Connie Supanusenphone went.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes. Younger brothers, Luke and Jordan, and like all of our athletes, grew up playing all the sports.
Yes, he was a multiple sport star, if you will. Early in his life, though, his family moved to Oregon because his dad wanted to change careers.
Yes.
And they said that once they got there, that it was a completely different lifestyle than they were used to in California because he was just going to school, so they didn't really have income coming in that much. So
Yeah, exactly. Like they based like big culture shock moving from NorCal there to Portland at the time, but they ended up moving back.
Yep.
They ended up moving back to Northern California and go to high school in Chico, Pleasant Valley High School, and he played baseball. I read
he was. There was a point when he wasn't being looked at as like this top quarterback where he's like, I might play baseball professionally. But this was, I just want to point this out, this was a really prestigious high school, and they do like interviews.
Yeah.
And they interviewed Aaron, and they were like, what do you think you're going to bring to our school? And without even skipping a beat, he just goes, I'm going to improve your entire sports department. And this is literally what he said. He just goes, I've, for whatever reason, have always had this confidence, which I feel like is probably the best trait for a quarterback. Because he's like, even when I mess up, because I know I'm not going to just be perfect all the time, I still have that confidence for that next time to be like, I can do this.
got a very short memory.
Oh, it's so good because you have
Come
to.
up later.
I'm just saying, you have to.
He's got that dick swinging energy. I
Yes,
believe.
yes.
That's a good way of putting it. He was a starting quarterback for the final 2 years. His senior season in 2001, he set the school record for passing yards. Got great grades throughout high school as well, which will come into play once we discuss where he goes to college and what happens to him.
Great grades, great SAT scores, 1310. And a lot of the time, because he was undersized coming out of, I wouldn't even say, this is what's so crazy because he talks about it. He was like, I was 5'11". I wasn't like crazy short.
And he had a growth spurt too.
I know. And he was talking about it because this is why he didn't get recruited. And you hear it, you're just like, even guys with what he did in high school, with that height, with his grades, normally get some sort of D1 love.
I don't know why any Mountain West team wasn't all over.
I know.
Like, yeah, I mean, if you're the Pac-10 at the time, whatever, but like none of these Cal State schools or anyone else is coming after you.
It's just bad recruiting.
It's just terrible recruiting. He said he was really discouraged. He even thought about going to law school.
Law school or baseball. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be an FBI agent, Johnny Utah Rodgers?
That would have been so good.
He would have been perfect in that role.
God.
Surfing.
So good.
She's a little undersized. The only type of interest he got as far as football was a walk-on scholarship to Illinois.
To Illinois, yep.
But he decides, look, I'm going to go the JUCO route because that's what's at my disposal, and he stays home.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting, too, is he was so in the mentality that he could be a D1 starter. He was like sure he was going to go to FSU and play for Bobby fucking Bowden. And it literally was such a shock to him that no school. Illinois was the only one.
Yeah.
And they didn't even offer him. They were literally like, you could walk on, but you're probably not going to play even if you're good. Like, that's how bad of it was for him.
And it's like a mid-tier Big Ten team.
Yes.
Not like Michigan or Ohio State,
Yes.
where you have your pick of the litter. It's like, okay, well, maybe they don't want to recruit you. It's like Illinois is giving you a walk-on opportunity.
It's wild.
God. So he goes to Butte there in Oroville in NorCal, and he lights it up his freshman year.
Yes.
In 2002. They go 10-1 and win the NorCal Conference title. He's generated so much interest this year because of his 26 touchdown passes. Now all the D1 schools, and he's had his growth spurt, so he's now at about 6'2" and gaining some weight, about 200 pounds. All the D1 schools want him now, especially out west.
I was going to say, I felt like it was more of an out west kind of thing where it's so weird to think of now because they could just like pull him up online probably with his JUCO stuff. But even back when this was happening, I bet that was really hard. So you had to kind of be in that area of California, Arizona, Colorado. You know what I mean? Like where you're in this recruiting thing. And I saw the head coach from Cal didn't even go to scout him. He went to scout their tight end.
Exactly.
And saw him pass like 2 times. And he goes, that guy could play in the NFL someday.
He's just like, wait, why is he here?
Yes. No, seriously. He really was like, this is crazy. This guy is so much better than your program.
It was almost like the Tim Brown episode where it's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on? Are you unaliving people, Aaron?
Well, I bet the coaches had that ask of being like, oh, he's a problem off the field. And they're just like, no. His grades are a problem? No. It's such a ridiculous thing.
It's not like Nick Van Exel. He's got straight A's.
Yes.
So he's able to transfer from Butte after one season to California.
Yep.
So he ends up heading there in 2003. Not the starter right away. I don't know if you read anything about that.
Yeah, he didn't start the first 4 games, I think.
Yeah.
And then came in the 5th and was pretty much like, this is mine.
So the first game that he kind of took over the job was on September 11th, 2003 in a loss at Utah. And Alex Smith was the quarterback for Utah in this game.
That's so good. That'll come back.
Spiderweb.
That'll come back.
So he's holding down the job. They beat Illinois in his next start, which is just like, hey, remember me, dickbags?
I did see that, which is pretty awesome.
Then in his second start, they play number 3 USC. And this is kind of his arrival into college football. Mm-hmm. They end up pulling off the upset in that game. He doesn't finish the game because he's hurt.
Yeah, he gets injured in halftime, and that game ends up going like the 2 or 3 overtimes or whatever, and they end up winning. But you could see, because they were winning by, I think it was like 21-14, but when he went out or something like that, where you're like, oh, this guy can control a game against a really good USC team.
So the quarterback's job he took is from Tucson.
Oh, really?
Oddly enough. Yeah, he went to Saguaro. Richie Robertson.
That's great.
So they go 8-6. Mind you, Cal is starting to finally get good again.
Yep.
I think they went to a bowl the previous season with Kyle Bowler, and this year they're kind of building on that success. They win the Insight Bowl against Virginia Tech. Did want to add, this season, he had the lowest interception percentage in school history for a single season, which I feel like will come into play later when we talk about his NFL.
Accuracy?
He is quite the accurate passer.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
2004, they're very hyped this year. I think they start off in the top 10.
Yes.
And they just...
And they achieve that because they go 10-1.
The only loss was to that SC team.
Yep.
And you could make the argument they might have won that game. Like, that was the closest game USC played the entire year.
He had a streak of 26 consecutive pass attempts and completions, 23 in one game, which is, it's just so ridiculous when you think about it. He was such an accurate passer even back then.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, he tied the NCAA record. 66.1 completion percentage that year, led the Pac-10. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they don't get a Rose Bowl shot. They're passed over for, I think, Texas.
For Texas, yeah.
But they go to the Holiday Bowl and end up losing. But never, he's first team all Pac-10, and he's out the door after 2 years. But why would you come back?
No,
because most of the team left with him. This team was stacked. I think their running backs, J.J. Arrington had over 2,000 yards. His backups were Justin Forsett, who played like a decade in the NFL, and Beast Mode. His freshman year was with Beast Mode.
Nice. That's wild.
So, going into the 2005 NFL draft, he was like up until draft day, most people thought he'd be the first pick.
He's in the green room, I think, with like 6 other guys. So they're confident that these guys are going to be top 10. Also, he grew up in Chino, so he was a 49ers fan.
Oh, yeah, that's his childhood team.
That's literally his childhood team.
Picking first.
49ers are picking first, and everybody's like, look, even if he doesn't go first, he's going to go top 5. That was like the consensus of like everybody at this draft.
Because there were like a number of QB needy teams in the top 10.
Yes.
Everyone was just like, he has all of the tools. Great arm, accurate, most importantly, played at a big program with not a lot of, I mean, by 2004, he had a number of good players with him, but not like a USC, completely stacked.
Can grow a great mustache. And that's quarterback 101.
I mean, if you don't have a mustache, like, you really got to bring it with the rest of your game.
It's true.
We like to call that a tone setter.
So 49ers pick Alex Smith, first pick, which is not, it wasn't crazy, but how far he drops after that is where you're like, what the hell is going on?
So with the Alex Smith thing, and I've heard Mike Nolan, who was their head coach at the time, talk about it, and their offensive coordinator, Mike McCarthy, talk about it. And Rodgers has talked about going in there and just lighting up the pre-draft workout.
Yeah.
And he had said, he's been interviewed where he said, look, I thought I did so well that I left no doubt.
Yeah.
But their reasoning that they've discussed was they thought Aaron was ready to play right away and Alex wasn't, which is hilarious when we see exactly what happens.
Yep.
But one of the other knocks, I don't know if you read anything about this, he was one of the Jeff Tedford quarterbacks. So up until this point, Jeff Tedford, when he was at Fresno State, when he was at Oregon, and then Cal, guys that he had been developing who were really good college quarterbacks were absolutely napalming in the NFL.
Yeah, they just didn't have whatever the set was or just like the game plan to get into the NFL schemes.
Or even just the situation, like Trent Dilfer didn't live up to where he was drafted, even though the defense won him that Super Bowl. And then you had Achilles Smith, Joey Harrington, both at Oregon, and now Kyle Bowler going to the Ravens is a huge draft bust.
Yep.
So people were talking, some mad shit about that. But he's still waiting in the green room as a lot of guys are picked in front of him.
He said he kept getting calls from his friends because you get a call from the team.
Yeah.
And he would get all excited and look, and his friend would be like, smile more. And he was like, and he goes, I know, I get it. It was funny. But in the moment, you're just like, guys, chill out. This is embarrassing. And that's what he said because he was like, I was in the green room. With his family, but it was getting so late that they were starting to clean up and clear other tables.
Yeah.
So, that's how far he drops.
So, 3 running backs were taken in the top 5. Then you had players like Pac-Man Jones going. DeMarcus Ware, who's in the Hall of Fame, I think, now. The Vikings and Cowboys had 2 picks in the first round. And they said, no, we're okay. We're okay. We don't need it. And then one of the other things was, because this is before the rookie wage scale, there were some other teams who might have taken him, but it would have fucked with the salary cap.
Oh,
because of him being a quarterback and everything else.
Yep.
So he keeps slipping in that first round, tumbles all the way down. Where does he fall, Chris?
24th, goes to the Green Bay Packers, who in this era that we've been talking about in this block have had some of the most unbelievable quarterback pickups late first round. It's ridiculous.
Well, they haven't taken anybody this high.
Yes.
I wanted to point out. It's, you're getting guy 3rd round,
second
5th round, 6th round. because they're not, you can develop them because you have Favre.
Yes.
But by 2005, Favre is going to be 36.
Mm-hmm.
And what we'll get into possibly later is they've just suffered 4 actually embarrassing playoff losses in a row, where Favre is the GOAT in all of those games, and not greatest of all time, but you're ruining it for the rest of us.
Yes.
GOAT. Embarrassing, completely embarrassing. And the Packers have talked about the strategy with him where it was like, no, we're going to draft him if he falls to us.
Yes.
We're not anticipating he will, but if he does, we're going to take him. It's just too much value.
Yep.
So he's taken 24th overall, and now he's backing up Brett Favre.
And just to point out what a West Coast kid he was, I'm sure he was kind of kidding about this, but after he got drafted by the Packers, he just goes, I don't know if I can identify Wisconsin on a map. That's like literally one of the things he said, where you get that he is kind of like a jokey guy, but at the same time, he literally was like, I don't know anything about the East Coast.
Wisconsin, that's next to Pennsylvania, right? Like,
it's an interesting thing that happens because he keeps talking about what a weird path he has. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like going to JUCO, then to Cal, then getting drafted really late by the Packers. And he was just like, and it worked out for me so well.
but you got to think though, in that moment where you're like, all right, I had to go to JUCO, I went to Cal where I'm the man.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking before this draft. If I'm not picked by San Francisco, I'm going to be picked by a team where I'm the guy right away.
Yep.
And like, I don't think he had any illusions of like going somewhere and having to sit behind somebody of that caliber, you know, like maybe a bridge guy in front of you for the first couple weeks, but not someone who is at that time an icon in the NFL like Favre. And it's pretty rough on him while he's backing Favre up. There's one story where they were passing a helmet around in the locker room. Did you read this?
No.
So they hand him a helmet and they tell him to go and sign it. Favre had orchestrated the entire thing. It was Aaron Rodgers' helmet where all the teams signed it, and he couldn't find his helmet before practice one day.
Brett was playful, but man, was he an asshole to him.
Well, so I think with Brett, it's okay. You drafted Mark Brunell in the 5th round.
Yeah.
As long as I'm healthy and don't throw 7 interceptions in a game, he's not replacing me. Oh, great. We drafted, Matt Hasselbeck, 6th round. Called him Mr. August for a reason. Aaron Brooks, probably not ready to play right away. I don't care. He's not on my radar.
Yeah.
They took this dude with specific intentions in mind because of his past failures.
Yeah.
And I think that ate away at him more than he'd care to admit.
Because he is in the winter of his career. He's 36. He had a bunch of playoff losses, but it's you really see it as he has this huge resentment towards Aaron Rodgers, where like he'll get asked in like media, like, "Are you helping this new kid come along?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "That's not my job. That's not my job." And you're just like, "Oh, that's not what you're supposed to say. We have set questions and you have set answers, and you're not doing them."
Favre and the other backups hated him because he was always like trying to get better and like almost a goody two shoes trying to like nail everything down, which didn't help. But it's like, what are you supposed to do? You drafted me for a reason, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to take your job. We'll get into that part later. But his first season doesn't really do anything.
No.
Just rides the bench. Mike Sherman gets fired as head coach. And then next year, they hire Mike McCarthy, who was supposed to pick him in San Francisco.
And I saw this, which I thought was interesting. He put, just to like really reinforce that Aaron's going to be like the starter, he put him in like his QB training session, which was like 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, working on hand-eye
discipline.
Hand-eye coordination and eye discipline. And said his fingers weren't strong enough, so he did like finger strength. It was like a bunch of shit that you don't think about, but like for quarterbacks, you're like, that is perfect.
Oh, it totally lines up.
Yeah.
And, he sent him to the tool shed.
Yes,
to
exactly.
strengthen those fingers.
Whacking off.
But, oh, God, what was it? As far as the QB school, though, it's like, that might have been kind of rocky, though, to be telling someone, we're going to take you number 1 overall, and then show up and be like, oh, well, this is awkward.
Yep. But it worked.
It worked. 2006, he ended up breaking his foot.
Oh, I saw that.
But doesn't really matter.
But yeah, I was going to say Favre still
starts all of the games. In 2007, he's the backup again, and I don't know if you read anything about this. There were rumors that he might have been traded.
Yeah, to I forgot who. For Moss.
It was Oakland for Moss.
Yeah.
So on that draft day, that was the big scuttlebutt because no one was thinking Oakland was going to trade him within the AFC.
Yeah.
And the Packers were gearing up for one last hurrah with Favre.
Mm-hmm.
And need a receiving weapon, right? So
he ends up going to the Pats.
He does end up playing a little bit this year. Plays on a Thursday night football game against Dallas as his first touchdown pass in a loss after Favre leaves the game. And that year, the Packers end up going all the way to the NFC title game before the old dong slinger slings them out of the Super Bowl.
Yep.
With an overtime interception. And that offseason, leading into 2008 on March 4th, Favre retires. He retires. He holds a press conference. Lots of drama surrounding that. To the Packers' credit, though, they made the right choice because Favre tried to come back with Green Bay in 2008.
I was just going to say, so he retires. He then unretires. Green Bay sign him and trade him.
Yeah.
Which is probably, like you were saying, the best thing that they could have done. But this really does divide the fans for this opening season, especially before the season.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's like, what has this Rodgers guy done? But it's like, well, what has Favre done for you since 1997 when you last made a Super Bowl?
Yep.
I mean, and as we talked about in past episodes, in 2008, Favre's going to be 39.
Yes.
No one had played, like, really well that far into their career. And you drafted this guy in the first round. You've sat him for 3 years.
He's
you
ready.
Have to know, what you have to know what commodity. They even drafted 2 quarterbacks that year in 2008. Brian Brom and Matt Flynn.
And Flynn's his quarterback, his backup for a while there.
Quite a long time.
Yeah.
He even comes back.
Yeah, they even trade it or whatever happens, but he comes back. But yeah, so you're right. Packers make the right decision. They go with Rodgers. They're like, Favre, you're great. We're trading you to the Jets. And
the team is getting younger too, so I'm thinking a lot of the players at the time are like, no, this is the guy we played against in practice. This is the guy who was running scout team. Like this is our guy, not the veterans guy with Favre. Like most of those guys are gone from those glory day teams of the late 90s. 2008, they go 6-10, but Rodgers has a pretty good season.
He had 137 consecutive passes without an interception early in the season. And this is what people were talking about, where they were like, he was so set up to be their quarterback that when they got put in, you were like, it's like one of those things where you see a team, you're like, we weren't great this year, but man, stuff's coming together.
Yeah, no, we have a young roster.
Yep.
Like, it's not necessarily a rebuild. We're just retooling everything to move forward and help this guy. He had over 4,000 yards passing, 28 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. I bring that last part up because that is the most he'll have in a season for his entire career.
Yep.
13? Jameis Winston would do that in like 3 weeks.
I know. And that's another thing to good management or whatever ownership by the Packers. They signed him to a 6-year, $65 million contract at the end of the season because they're like, you're our guy. We're going forward.
Like they're set up. They're doing the right things.
Yes.
They're doing Packer things, I guess is the best way to put it. 2009, he's October's NFC Offensive Player of the Month. They finished 7-1 after a 4-4 start. They did lose to Favre twice though this year.
Yeah,
in Minnesota.
The Jet Favre, in Minnesota. You're right.
Yeah, because he was with the Jets in 2008.
Yep.
They make it as a wild card though.
He has a Pro Bowl, first Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm. He sets some team records for points in a season that year, and he's the first quarterback in team history with 4,000 passing yards in his first 2 seasons starting. So they've got their guy.
Yep.
They made the investment. They made the smart choice of just saying, we're going to let him come to us.
Yep.
We're going to let him come to us. And he gets his first taste of postseason action
against the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm. This was a great game.
Yeah.
If you like defense, probably not a great game, but this was a great game.
Yeah, they end up losing 51-45 to it was just like 2 great quarterbacks, Warner and Rodgers, going at it.
The balls didn't touch the ground in this game.
Yeah.
You had 4 touchdowns in the second half and a rush TD. Really the only crappy part of the game was the Cardinals won on a sack fumble return.
Yep.
I think a defensive back came off the edge, but he never saw it coming.
No, yeah, he never saw it.
But you're thinking, this is great.
Yeah.
This is great. 2010, the regular season is a bit of a roller coaster. Misses a game with a concussion. They're 8-6 and out of the playoff picture in Week 15. So they need to basically win their last 2 games.
They need to win out, yeah.
They need to win out, and they get hot. They beat the Giants, and then in the last week, They beat the Bears, who are resting everybody because they've clinched the division. Has almost 4,000 passing yards and 28 touchdowns. They sneak into the playoffs as the 6th seed, and they have to go to Philadelphia, and they beat Michael Vick.
Yep. Well, everybody's kind of beating up on him. Beat the Eagles. It's when you look at this run in the playoffs and what his stats were, it's pretty ridiculous because in the next game against Atlanta,
he puts the team on his back.
He literally he's 31 of 36, and they blow out number one. And Atlanta was ranked number 1 that year, so like literally blow him out 48-21. He has like 360 yards. It's he has these playoff performances where you're just like, yep, there it is.
We had 3 tutties against the Eagles, and he has 3 more
against the Falcons.
That game was crazy. I remember because I think they scored like 30 points in the second quarter.
Yeah.
Like it was like Atlanta, and then we're tied, or Atlanta was ahead, and then it was avalanched.
Yep.
And then they get to play the Bears,
who
in the title game, and smoking Jay Cutler.
Yep.
Pre-DUI weapons charges. I was talking to Elias, and he sent me the link. He's like, please tell me this is the beginning of a Randy Marsh run for Jay Cutler.
Oh, my God.
They pull him over. Shane!
Thought this was America.
God. He had 2 big touchdowns in the first half. One by Rod, or one on the ground to go up 14-0. Cutler's out. This was the sitting on the bench game where he looked all dejected and doesn't care. They end up getting a pick 6 by B.J. Raji to win 21-7 and make the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They make the Super Bowl there in Dallas, Super Bowl 45, and he's just hot. He was just... They should have won this game by more points. To be quite honest. They kind of let the Steelers hang around because he carved them. He carved them the entire game. Their cornerbacks were their weakness, and it was just him to Jennings, him to Nelson, him to Driver, the entire freaking game. They're staked a 21-3 lead in the first half. Pittsburgh pulls within 4 in the third quarter before a Rashard Mendenhall fumble, which they turn into a touchdown. And then it's just them kind of staving them off until the very end of the game. But had an incredible game, over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. MVP, well-deserved. They end up winning the game 31-25. And this is what you expected, though. This is why the Packers are never out of it, like ever during this era. Like, you had 30 fucking years of Favre and Rodgers. The most important position.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Well, it really is when you look back, the transition of dropping Favre, which I know is hard, to this, and then you get a Super Bowl win 3 years later. You're like, that's why we did this.
You're thinking, though, after they won that Super Bowl with the age of that roster, how it was constructed, and then even Rodgers' age, he's what, 27?
Yep.
Going to be 28. Man, you're really looking... At least I thought this could have been a potential dynasty.
Well, and going into the next season,
the next
regular season.
Oh, man.
And this is something about sports where teams get too hot too early and they just kind of like burn out. Where and the Packers were so good in the 2011 season, it was insane.
15-1.
15-1. He sets all kinds of records as just setting records as a Packers QB is ridiculous.
Yeah.
For passer rating, for his completion rate, it was like all of that shit where you're just like, God damn. He has his first ever MVP, and it's so interesting to see them lose in the playoffs the way they did.
They were beating the brakes off of everyone. They had that one hiccup against the Chiefs where it was just like, you know what? Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way.
Yep.
But every week they were just taking people to the woods. His touchdown to interception ratio was 45-6. Tom Brady doesn't do that.
Oh, no. It's insane.
Like, come on, man.
They say this season for a quarterback might be one of the greatest seasons, probably like top 5 ever.
And you got
because he was so efficient.
You got to believe it, they're blowing people out. He's not finishing these games either.
No.
Like, it's ridiculous. He was NFC Offensive Player of the Month, September, October, November. That's 3 of the 4 months you play regular season football.
It's insane.
They had the third most points in the NFL all time.
Yep.
At the time, 560. And you get the first round bye. You're playing at Lambeau. And who walks in but football on the spectrum? And the New York Giants, giving hope to the specials, as you once said.
That beautiful boy.
Big, strong, beautiful Eli Manning.
God, he's just a big, strong, beautiful boy.
Oh, my God.
And you know what? He's special in so many ways.
He's special at just shitting in apple pies of, like, historic teams.
It's so good.
Like, if his Hall of Fame plaque should just be, we don't know how he did it, but he did it.
Yep. Seriously, though. So the Giants end up beating the Packers, and the Giants go on to win the Super Bowl for that season. That's why you're like, God, that's so ridiculous, beating these teams that just had they were so much better in the regular season.
Well, and in 2007, they were heavily favored over the Giants.
Yep.
In that game, Favre pissed away.
Yep.
So you're just like, why? Why would this happen? But still got Aaron Rodgers.
Still got
Aaron Rodgers. Makes the Pro Bowl again in 2012. Offensive Player of the Month in October. Over almost 4,300 yards and 39 touchdowns. They win the NFC North.
Yeah, they go 11-5. I want to point this out. They lost their first game to the 49ers.
Yeah, they did.
In that season.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
And then this will come back because they lose to the 49ers a lot.
They do. So they lost the first game to Alex Smith.
Yes, Alex Smith and the 49ers.
Smith. And this is after Harbs gets there and resurrects Alex Smith because I don't know what would have happened to Rodgers if he went to San Francisco, but that window from like 2005 to about 2010
was bad.
It was, oh God. Smith had one good season with Norv Turner, and then he left. So he had like 3 offensive coordinators his first 3 years. But they end up beating the Vikings in the wild card, and then they play San Francisco on the road because they were the 3 seed, and Rosa Parks just takes them down.
Yeah.
I mean, Colin Kaepernick just, oh my God. That was when he was in his not injured Nevada pistol form, where it was just like, we don't know no one had seen that outside of college football before.
Yeah.
Because Harbaugh had taken that Nevada offense and been like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing after Alex Smith gets hurt.
Yeah. Yep.
So they end up losing. They gave up 45 points.
Yeah, they got slaughtered.
You're not going to win a lot of play. Rodgers didn't play bad.
No, it was, but yeah, they just couldn't stop the 49er offense. So
yeah, Kaepernick had like 450 all-purpose.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do it.
No.
2013 though was a very rough season for Aaron. 3 other quarterbacks started games that year for Green Bay.
Yeah.
Matt Flynn, who was back after losing his job to Russell Wilson. Scott, I don't know what a Scott Tolzien is, but it doesn't sound good. And then Seneca Wallace from our Hasselbeck episode.
Oh, yeah.
Up and down, has only about 2,500 passing yards. He does sign his $100 million extension, though, this year.
Yeah, 5-year, $100 mil.
Broke his clavicle against the Bears when they were 5-2. They dropped 4 of their next 5 games. One of the games they didn't even win. It was a tie.
Yep.
I remember that everyone was burying them this year. Like, everyone was just burying them. Like, Detroit, I think, was like, they were in control of that division before Rodgers came back. And then he comes back and just, oh my God, just does Aaron Rodgers things.
Yep. And takes them to the playoffs on a 8-7-1 record, which is pretty bad for what they normally do.
The closing game that year was against the Bears. It was for the NFC North title.
Yeah.
And he completed, they were down 28-27 and hits Randall Cobb, who's like his favorite receiver and friend, on this ridiculous 4th down throw.
Oh, yeah.
Like that ridiculous touchdown, 4th and 8 at their own 48, and they score a touchdown to go to the playoffs. They play the Niners again.
And lose.
We're going to see a theme in this episode and next episode where it just seems like these teams meet all the time.
Yes.
And one team always has the upper hand for a while, and then it'll be the other team.
And then it switches,
and
yes.
It just switches back and forth. I remember that game. It just looked like one of those dog ugly Green Bay days where it was just snowing, cold, shitty.
Yep.
Lose 23-20, even though they were leading in the 4th quarter. But we'll get into 2014, and This is the one that kind of got away. To me, of all of the Rodgers seasons we're going to talk about, this is the one that got I think even more than 2011.
Okay.
Only because of who they would have, the caliber of the team they would have played in the Super Bowl as opposed to the caliber of team they would have played in the 2011 season.
I get you.
So they start the season 1 and 2.
Not great.
No.
And there's a bit of rebellion from the fans, and he has
great.
the forethought to just be like everybody, and then he spells out relax. It's just like, just calm down, beginning of the season, and then he proceeds to have one of the best seasons. I think 2011 is way better.
No, statistical, he's way better in 2011. I'm talking about the team winning a Super Bowl.
Yes. No, I know. I'm just saying in this, because they start 1 and 2, and he doesn't have great stats. In like the last run of games, he was so good that he's just one of the best quarterbacks of this era.
Well, he's so efficient and he's so smart. And one of the things about his game people don't give him in this part of his career that they don't give him enough credit for is he's mobile as shit.
Yes.
He's almost not necessarily like Brunell, but he's very slippery.
And he could throw from any angle.
Exactly.
So he doesn't have to like
feet not set.
Which I remember watching, like, because I watched a bunch of highlights and I was like, God, I forgot how many he just literally off the hip.
Yeah.
Like literally in the middle of running, and you just see like a 30-yard just perfect pass, and you're like, where'd that come from?
And it's like a laser.
Yes.
He has such good arm strength.
Yep.
One of the things that they were talking crap about him going into the draft, I remember, was his mechanics as far as where he held the football. So as part of that QB school and everything while he was riding the bench behind Favre, Green Bay, and you can tell from his tape at Cal to where he is with the Packers and later, you can tell there's a definite change in his throwing angle as far as like standard, as far as where he holds the ball.
Yeah.
So
and where his release is and like all that kind of stuff. Because he is so ridiculous in this era of just because you're right, he's not fast, but he's wiry.
He's wiry. The one thing I can say about our they got a lot of offensive weapons.
Yeah, they do.
Green Bay. Offensive player of the month in November, like you mentioned, he finished strong. They go 12-4.
Yep.
38 touchdowns, first in points per game for their offense. Only 5 interceptions.
Again, it's so ridiculous.
I don't think that could be understated, though, for as often as he throws the football, that the turnovers are so low. The interceptions are so low. That just, that helps your team so much.
Yeah, because it's such a rare occurrence when it happens.
So they get a bye as the 2 seed. He wins his second MVP. Didn't want to add too.
2014, his second MVP.
They draw Dallas. Coming off that game, the refs gave them against the Lions the previous week. And many people remember this as the Des Bryant game. As far as him, I got to admit, that was a catch. I don't know what the hell the refs saw.
Yeah, I agree.
But people remember for that. People don't remember Rodgers coming back and then icing the game by himself. Like by himself in this game. 316 yards and 13 touchdowns. So there's 4 minutes and 6 seconds after the Bryant call, after it's 4th down and when they take over, right? They're winning the game. They're winning the game. And what ends up happening is 2 huge 3rd downs on this drive. 2 amazing just throws to Richard Rodgers, and I forget the other guy who caught the ball, but it was just like, there's no way any quarterback in the league could have completed these passes.
Well, the one is the guy going out. I think it was Jennings.
No,
it wasn't Jennings.
Jennings was in Miami by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was somebody. The catch I'm thinking of was literally he's like we were just talking about, no feet set, and just has a bullet right down the sideline, and the guy like catches it with the 2 feet in.
Yeah.
I literally just watched this and I can't remember who the hell.
Oh no, that's a game we'll get to later.
Oh, you're right.
This is at Lambeau. So,
you're right. This is at Lambeau.
They end up winning, and they go to play defending Super Bowl champion Seattle. In the NFC title game
with his old buddy, fucking beast mode over there playing.
And this is why I say it probably hurts Packers fans the most, because they had this in the bag.
Yep.
This was they were up 19-7 with 5 minutes to go. Seattle couldn't do anything offensively the entire game. And for whatever reason, Russ woke up and beast mode woke up.
Yep.
And there was the fumbled onside kick. The fumbled onside kick is what
that changed the momentum so much, especially when you're a Packer. When you're on the sidelines, you're like, we got this. And then that mistake, you're just like, shit.
And then that throwback to Lynch on the
yeah.
my God. So they're down, but they're down 22-19. The Packers are like, you're thinking the game is over with 44 seconds. He drove them into field goal range to tie the game with Mason Crosby. I mean, granted, they lost because Seattle scored on the first possession.
But still, he literally took that game to a place where they could win, and then the rules didn't allow them to answer that touchdown, but that's all right.
No. I mean, the rules at the time.
I liked it. I actually kind of like that, but that's fine.
No, it's overtime. It's sudden death.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I think of it.
Both teams have allowed it to get this far.
Yes.
If you're going to make one change, then just have them play out the extra period.
Oh, yes.
I've always
as
been
a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have 10 minutes to see who scores more.
Yeah.
I can get down with that.
I agree.
But next 2 seasons, just being Aaron Rodgers, couple of Pro Bowls, 10-6 each season. They won the division in 2016. Over 8,000 passing yards, 71 touchdowns to 15 picks.
It's crazy. God. He was such an accurate thrower. 2016 was crazy because they didn't start great. He had a little. Is that when he had his injury? No, that's the next year.
Yeah,
but it's interesting because he's so efficient for so long. They're always in the picture.
Yeah,
that's why he was always so good.
2015, he has that Hail Mary, the first of the numerous Hail Marys he'll throw.
Yep,
the one to beat the Lions there. The one to Richard Rodgers to win 27-23. The Miracle in Motown game, as they call it. They made the play. They beat Washington in the wild card, and then they end up playing Arizona and that's an exciting game. That was a great one. It was him and Carson Palmer going at it.
Oh yeah.
He ends up throwing another Hail Mary to send the game to overtime, which they lose.
Which they end up losing
on the first possession of overtime.
Yep.
On the Larry Fitzgerald shuffle pass. The 2016, though, you were saying was a bit rocky. They were 4-6, and he said, "We're going to run the table."
Yeah,
that's what they did.
I know. It's such a ridiculous. Yeah,
it's offensive player of the month in December. Like, it's just he has that quiet confidence you want in a quarterback. And he's got that shit-eating grin all the time.
I know, I love it.
Just like, God damn it! Oh.
And this is why I brought it up earlier, because I saw him in an interview recently where he's like, "I've always had this confidence. This isn't like a thing that I gained in Green Bay or Cal." He was like, "When I was in high school, I was like, no, I'm gonna make your entire program better." God. And they were like, "Okay, why does a 14-year-old have a full mustache?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Why don't you ask your mom why I have this mustache?"
That's right. So you live around here?
What time you get off work?
What time you get off work?
Don't worry. I got a pretty sweet Schwinn in the parking lot.
That's right.
So 2016 in the playoffs, they beat the Giants there at Lambeau. 4 touchdown passes in that game. Then... 38-13 they beat them. And then they play Dallas in the divisional round, who's the number 1 seed in Big D.
Oh, yeah.
And then this was the game we were talking about. So they take a huge lead because they just absolutely ambushed. This was the year Dak and Zeke were rookies.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Because this is the year Romo got hurt. Everyone was all over the Cowboys nuts.
Yep, I remember.
This is our year, guys.
Every year.
Dallas ties it with 1:33 to go, or Green Bay ends up going ahead 31-28 with 1:33 to go, and then Dan Bailey for the Cowboys ties it at 31 with 35 seconds, and you're thinking, all right, we're going to overtime,
or
with 18 seconds on his own 32. This was the one you're talking about.
This is the one I was talking about.
To Jared Cook.
Yes, thank you.
Where Rodgers.
Thank you.
Rodgers is
rolling out to his left.
To his left, which is not an easy throw to make for anybody 3 yards down the field.
Exactly. And he throws a bullet to the sideline. And just to be clear, I think there's 3 Cowboys players right there.
Oh, yeah, there are.
If there's a certain angle where you look at it, you're like, that was the only place you could have put that ball.
Oh, yeah.
Because he would have been too far out if he went more left. Like, it's such an amazing pass without his feet set. It's literally just this.
It's hero ball. Yeah,
yes.
It's just arm strength. And to be fair, Jared Cook made an incredible catch to contort his body and keep his feet in bounds.
You're right. But
the throw, it's not even that it was the throw itself. It's the fucking balls on this guy to make that throw.
Yep.
Just be like, well, if they pick it off, they're not going to get into field goal range with how much time is left. If it's incomplete, then we just punt.
Yes.
Like, why not? But just the balls on him to do it.
I love it.
Crosby makes a 51-yard field goal as time expires. The following week, they play the 28-3 Falcons, though.
Oh, yeah.
That was when Julio Jones just
lit. Yeah.
he made everybody their bitch. Rodgers didn't have a bad game. Their defense just couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
2017, 2018, they're kind of some rough seasons.
Well, I was going to say, so he gets a knee injury, and they were talking about him not coming back too early, but just not being able to move like he normally would, where you see that. And I think this is the first year for like a decade that they didn't make the playoffs.
Yes.
It's crazy how much, when you look at it and like, because sometimes you don't think about these teams just making the playoffs every single year, and then you go through a stretch where you're like, they haven't made the playoffs in like 6 years. I guess you just don't realize you're in the good days when you're in them.
Well, you could be like the Jets and not have made it since 2010.
Yeah,
But
you still bet on the Jets.
Mr. T, the Boston Red Sox.
God, it's so good.
So yeah, he fractured his right collarbone in 2017, missed 9 games. They go 7-9. 2018, 6-9-1. He makes the Pro Bowl, but he's still lighting it up because he's got Devontae Adams. But
yes,
they're in a little bit of a rebuild mode now. By 2018, signs a 4-year extension though after the season. McCarthy's gone after 2018 though.
Yeah.
So they bring in Matt LaFleur from the Titans, and they also drafted Aaron Jones that year, which and I mean I think he's with the Vikings now. But he
as their backup.
He had some really good seasons there in Green Bay. 2019, they're awesome though. They bounce right back. They win the division. They go 13-3, 26 touchdowns to 4 picks. I can't. What
Quarterbacks have had 4 picks in one game, and we
some have them in a half.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
Just taking care of the football. He had a perfect passer rating against the Raiders in Week 7 that year. They go all the way to the NFC Championship game
against the Seahawks.
They play the Seahawks first.
Yeah.
They win that game. And then they play the Niners in San Francisco, which is like, bullets, my only weakness. They ran the ball on them in that game so badly.
Oh, yeah.
But they just completely dominated the line of scrimmage. They lost 37-20. And heading into 2020, you're thinking, all right, they're just going to run it back. All Aaron needs is a little bit of help on offense. All he needs is some help. But to their credit, Green Bay does help on the offensive side of the ball, but they piss Aaron off a lot with what they do in the draft.
I was going to say, because this is when you have this relationship of owner and player that kind of fractures, and you almost see the same thing happen with Packers and Favre, where they literally were like, well, this guy's going to be our future. You're 36. We're not saying we're benching you this year, but it's coming.
They hadn't drafted an offensive skill position player, excluding Aaron Rodgers, since Javon Walker in 2002.
Isn't that insane?
They basically told him, we're doing what's best for the franchise. We don't care what you think. And they took Jordan Love from Utah State, who I think they envisioned him sitting longer than Aaron, but he was not a guy who was ready to go right away.
No.
They were thinking 3-4 years down the line, where he's starting now for the Packers.
That's right.
Aaron has an incredible year.
I was going to say, 2020 is for me, these next 2 years are just so insane for his age and the players around him.
Yeah. It's incredible. Week 12 in 2020 goes over 50,000 passing yards. Week 13, he has his 400 touchdown pass against the Eagles to his buddy Devontae Adams. Led the NFL and had a career high 70.7 completion percentage. That's like batting 380 in baseball.
No, seriously.
Like the equivalent of that. Mm-hmm. And granted, rules are a little bit different as far as up to completion percent. You get guys between about 60 and 65, and that's around 65 you're considered, elite.
Yes.
70 is just unbelievable. 48 touchdown passes. 48!
Yep. Another MVP.
MVP.
This is his third at 36 years old.
Yeah.
Which that's the thing that keeps me being like, God, he was so good. Yeah.
Imagine what his stats would have been like if he didn't sit for 3 seasons.
I know. Seriously, though. Because he was ready right out of Cal.
That's what I mean, is they really kind of, not to say they took it away from him, but it's like, if he jumps in day one, who knew, we could be talking about some other records that he might have. So their number 1 ranked scoring offense, win the divisional round against the Rams, 32-18, has 2 touchdowns and a touchdown rush. And they get the home playoff game. And who comes rolling in but Satan himself and Gronk? Can't forget Gronk.
Satan himself is such a great way of introducing him in this podcast. Old Timmy Brady.
To go to Duff Gardens, I'd ride with Satan himself. That's the spirit. See you tonight.
It's so good.
It's Satan himself. Come on.
Come on.
I mean, he's the only guy out playing fucking Rodgers as far as age, so
You're right.
We don't know. Aaron has a good game. 346 yards and 3 touchdowns. But towards the end of the game, and a lot of people still criticize his head coach for this, they go for a field goal instead of a touchdown.
Yeah.
Where field goal really does you no good. You're better off setting Tampa back, even if you don't make it, so you can try and tie it with a touchdown. And there was like 2 minutes to go, just over 2 minutes to go. Crosby makes the easy kick, and they're down 31-23.
Yeah. They needed that touchdown.
They end up losing 31-26 because guess what? You don't get the fucking ball back.
Yeah.
Because Satan himself gets to play.
Himself.
So that's another NFC title game loss. This one at home for Rodgers. 2021, 13-4.
MVP, 4th one. This is my thing. Back-to-back MVPs at age 36 and 37. And he was just so efficient throughout his entire career. There really wasn't a drop-off except for that small window when he got injured.
Yeah, like when he's hurt, but you can't expect it to
No,
it's break your collarbone as a quarterback.
It's insane.
God. 37 touchdowns, 4 picks. Or 37 years old. This is because we had talked about it in like the Brunel episode where we're like, we've never seen guys play this late.
Yep.
Now you're starting to kind of see it with a select few, and hadn't fallen off a cliff. He's almost getting better.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. This season, though, he runs into some issues with the NFL. I don't know if you read anything about this.
Oh, this is when he started to get a little political.
Beaten off to his own drum, shall we say, for this run of episodes. He violated NFL protocols and fined almost $15,000. Packers were fined over $300,000 for, I won't even say he lied about not getting, for the certain disease going on in those times. Got to be careful with what we say. He just omitted the truth.
Yeah.
Essentially, like he just said, "Yeah, I'm of a certain status." So he
wordsmith on that one.
Wordsmith on that. That's putting that Berkeley education to work.
Yep.
Just like
he almost went to law school. I'm just saying.
It's true. He probably would have been a great lawyer.
Yep. He just came in. Did you get the jab? I plead the 5th.
Fizz-if.
So
1, 2, 3, 4, Aaron.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5th.
God. So that year, I did want to say he threw his 443rd touchdown pass in Week 16 against the Browns, which broke Brett Favre's record.
Yep.
So he's got that going for him. Divisional round, they get a first-round bye. They play San Francisco, and they derped this game so hard. I think they scored on their opening possession, too.
Yeah.
They lost 13-10 when Robbie Gould made a field goal as time expired. They had a blocked punt for a touchdown. It was just San Francisco did nothing offensively in that game and still somehow won. It was just like, oh God. 2022. Now we're kind of seeing
a little decline.
We're going down. We've gone over the hill now.
And Love has been on the bench for 4 years.
This will be his third year on the bench.
Third year on the bench. So it's literally almost the exact same trajectory that he had, where it was like you could see like Favre kind of dropping off a little, or at least like the age actually becoming a factor where they're just kind of like, all right, well, thanks.
To be fair to Aaron, Favre's fall off was a lot bigger than his.
Well, he's still playing.
I know. I mean, the Favre thing, he pulled that 07 season out of his ass.
Yeah.
You could tell by like 2004 that it was kind of over for Favre. But they go 8-9. He has 3-year extension before that season though for $150 million. He played most of that year with a broken thumb.
Oh, I saw that, which is ridiculous.
Love was actually getting reps during the regular season, not like replacing him for injury, not like poor play. They lost the final game of the year when they could have made the playoffs to the Lions.
Oh,
at Lambeau, and that was it.
That was the nail in the coffin
for him in Green Bay.
Yep.
But he's still Aaron Rodgers. Teams will want him to play quarterback for them. There were those rumors before the season that he was the guy that Denver wanted instead of Russ.
Oh, yeah.
Because they brought
that would have been good.
They brought in Nate Hackett, who I'm sure has pictures of very important people in very compromising positions to stay employed in this league. 4/26/23, April 26th, Packers they've made the decision. They're going with Jordan Love.
Yep.
They're going with Jordan because much like Rodgers, they got to see what they got, right? See what that investment is.
I agree.
He's traded to the New York Jetropolitans.
That's why I love this too, because it really is. If you're the Packers quarterback for 12 years, you have to be traded to the Jets. That's it. That's your only avenue.
Yep, for first, second, and sixth round picks and a conditional second in 2024. And you're thinking, because everyone was on the Jets before this season started, not too long ago, everyone was like, that's the missing piece.
Yep,
Great
it really
defense.
was. Yep.
The offensive weapons like Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and they go into week 1, Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. And what happens?
Just to be clear, this is the first series of plays. It's not like they had a little punt, a little this. I think it was the fourth play,
Yep.
And he goes back and just snaps his ankle. I think it was a torn Achilles. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just the comedy of that.
I've seen teams Jets before, but these were the jetsiest bunch of Jets that ever jetsed. Like Vinny with the Achilles injury we talked about.
Yes.
Opening game.
Seriously.
All of the and you're just like, there's only one team this could happen. Not even the Browns.
No.
Like, this is just, oh, God.
Because the anticipation gets so high.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, this is it. The first series, he snaps his ankle.
Hope, what is that? God. So he tears his Achilles. He's iced. The whole season doing his homeopathic treatments and things of that nature to get better. But they're in for a season with Zach Wilson and Nick Boyle and just, oh, God.
And they're pretty average this year because this is,
Yeah, so 2024, they're average. They've definitely tried to help him by bringing in Devontae and more offensive weapons.
They just fired their head coach.
Some might say that he's running the entire show in New York.
That was definitely said after the head coach got escorted out by security.
Which is crazy because he's the last coach you'd think that would get escorted out by security. Andy Reid, they need security so they can kind of cut a hole in the wall when they get those people who are stuck to their couches,
Oh, I know.
But, I mean, they're 2-5 now, as we're recording this podcast. They could still turn it around.
Yes.
I mean,
he's done it before.
He's done it. You know what he's doing? He's spelling relax. Roll-Aid spells relief. Aaron Rodgers spells relax, everybody. But
I do want to point out he does have a bunch of great charities with kids with cancer. I didn't want to forget that. And just like he really is huge in the Wisconsin area, like I think it's mainly Milwaukee.
Part owner of the Bucks.
Part owner
like
of the Bucks.
Minority owner in the Bucks.
Yep.
You know, and which is if you can have any stake in a professional sports team, even if they're crappy, that's a license to print money.
Oh yes, it's ridiculous.
He's not going to get the Mark Brunell treatment. He doesn't seem like that.
Yes.
I mean, unless he spends it all on ayahuasca and going full Young Guns, I don't think that's a possibility for
God,
Aaron.
we would love that on this podcast. We would do another episode.
We're doing Aaron Rodgers, if you're listening. Come on, man.
Come on,
I just want to hear you. I just want to hear you talk about football. And if you want to talk shit about Brett Favre, like, the floor is open, sir. The floor is open. You want to talk shit about any of your weird Eddie Bravo conspiracy theory? We're here to listen.
That's right.
Believe in him? I don't know, but we're here to listen.
I was going to say we don't agree, but we agree with the fact that he says it. I don't know. He also has a record company, recording label. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, recording label,
and that's what he wants to do post career. Is he wants to really dive into like the music industry. And first band he signed was from his hometown, and they were like kind of his buddies and shit. I thought that was cool. There's just little stuff about him that I think is cool, and then there's like the big media, what they take on him. There's like, can you believe this guy? And you're like, well, I mean, that's probably not true.
He's a true Renaissance man. You know, and I mean, in the spirit of this episode, or these episodes, I said before, he beats off to his own drum.
Yes,
Thank
you.
And he doesn't take pictures of it, like someone we might bring up.
Maybe the next episode.
Before we go, I did want to
Yes.
bring this up though. Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP, 4-time regular season MVP, 10 Pro Bowls, 2010s all decade, 150 wins thus far as a quarterback in the NFL, which is
amazing,
ridiculous. Over 60,000 passing yards, 485 touchdown passes, 35 on the ground too.
Yeah.
So he's accounted for 520 regular season touchdowns. And his interception rate right now of 1.4% is the lowest in NFL history, and his 102.9 quarterback rating is the highest in NFL history as he's playing now. This might be his last year, but that's a first ballot Hall of Famer if I've ever heard it.
The most consistent quarterback.
And the best of our Favre backups. I think.
My God.
And not to say we've covered any schmoes either.
Well, for me, he's the only one that's actually better than Favre. That's my thing about all of this, like leading up to this, is Aaron is just so good.
Yeah, just
You're right. Yeah, Hall of Famer.
Easy.
Come back next time for Favre.
That's right.